morning. Thank you very much for joining Hawai'i Betsuin Sunday service. Today, we are very fortunate to have Mr. Ryan Catalani, who is the new Executive Director of the Family Promise of Hawaii, and Mr. Alan Goto will introduce him shortly. As many of you know, the Family Promise actively supporting and helping the low-income and the vulnerable families in Hawaii community. I think that the Family Promise activities to creating the harmonious community can align with the Buddhist teaching and the value. One of the core teachings and the beautiful value of Buddhism are the teaching of interdependence and then dana. All the people and things are connected to each other and creating this community and the world. If there are suffering and pain exist in our community, the pain should not only be considered as a personal matter, but all people acknowledge the pain instead of just close our eyes and not see them and put efforts to heal it. Because we are connected to each other, as it written in the teachings of interconnectedness. Dana, which means act of kindness to share and giving, is a practical approach for us, and it can be the base to create mutual aiding society. Some people may have more than us, but some people has less than us or maybe nothing. As the small ripple created by the small rock can affect the whole pond, our willingness will surely make a change. I sincerely appreciate the Family Promise leadership and effort creating more collaborative and inclusive community, and that we are happy to share the same value and work together with you as a Buddhist ohana. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. And then thank you, Mr. Catalani.
Thank you, Reverend Hasebe, for sharing your Dharma message on Dana, and as well as in terms of selfless giving. The 4 Honolulu District Honganji temples, Hawai'i Betsuin, Jikoing, Moe'ili, and Windward Honganji, have been involved with Family Promise for more than 10 years. Initially, we supported Family Promise clients 3 times a year, providing breakfast and dinner and a place to sleep for a week. Temple members, Buddhist Women Association members, Dharma school parents, and Girl Scouts offered their energy and resources to care for Family Promise client families. Engaging with Family Promise face-to-face made our efforts special and meaningful. We helped keep families together, and in doing so, hopefully we demonstrated a sense of Dana. With the pandemic, a new system to support Family Promise families was initiated, with a fixed site with client families to sleep and be safe. Volunteers from various temples and churches have been providing meals. Today, we are fortunate to have Reverend Catalani, the Executive Director of Family Promise, for today's service. Ryan Catalani has collaborated with communities across the Americas to galvanize solutions to critical social challenges. He joined Family Promise of Hawaii as its Executive Director in 2022. He brings a deep passion for this mission, having previously worked in Family Promise of Northern Newcastle County, Delaware, and served on the board of Family Promise of Hawaii. Born and raised in Kaneohe, Ryan was named one of Hawaii's 40 under 40 by Pacific Business News. Prior to his current position at Family Promise of Hawaii, he worked at Hawaii Children's Action Network. He also serves on the board of Pacific Gateway Center and the Association of Fundraising Professionals Aloha Chapter. So please welcome Mr. Catalani.
Good morning. Thank you for the warm introduction, and thanks again, Alan, who is one of our former board members, for inviting Family Promise here today. As you mentioned, my name is Ryan Catalani, and I have the privilege of serving as our executive director at Family Promise of Hawaii. And whether you've been a part of Family Promise's mission for many years, or you're just hearing about it for the first time today, I'd like to share a little bit about what we do and why we do it. Family Promise is a nonprofit working to prevent and end homelessness for families with children. I believe this is one of the most pressing social justice issues in our community. We're dedicated to mobilizing the community and bringing people together to solve this issue. Thanks to volunteers and supporters like you who give selflessly toward this cause, we're able to offer hospitality, hope, and ultimately a pathway to home to the families in our programs. You help to transform lives every single day. And here's just one example. We recently worked with a family of 6, a mom, a dad, and 4 kids. The father was working at a grocery store, and they had a stable place to live, but unfortunately the lease expired, and they found themselves with nowhere to go. They spent a night sleeping in their van in a parking lot before connecting with Family Promise and entering our emergency shelter program. It was hard for the kids at first. They didn't understand what was going on. They would ask their parents, "When are we going home?" Fortunately, a new home was right around the corner, thanks to compassionate volunteers and supporters like you, along with our dedicated staff. Working together as a community, we provided a safe place to stay while they got back on their feet. We also helped with their basic needs like food, supplies, and diapers for the 2 babies. The mom was able to find a job, and now with 2 incomes, they moved back into an apartment just 3 months after first coming to Family Promise. Family Promise of Hawaii was founded in 2005 and started operating in 2006. It started with a simple realization. On one hand, there are children who are sleeping without a roof over their head, whose families are living in cars, tents, and other unstable situations. On the other hand, there are existing underutilized community resources that can be mobilized to provide temporary shelter while those families work to get back into permanent housing. Our founders realized that houses of worship often have classrooms, gyms, and other spaces that aren't used every single day. And congregations are filled with people with big hearts who would be willing to selflessly share their space with families in need. So a truly community-based partnership emerged between Family Promise and local congregations like yours. Family Promise would find and screen families experiencing homelessness, and congregations would sign up to host 3 or 4 families a year, usually 3 or 4 times a year. During the day, those families would work with our professional case managers on staff to navigate their financial and housing challenges and work toward moving back into permanent housing. At night, they would come to temples, churches, and other houses of worship where volunteers would provide food, activities, and a spirit of warmth and hospitality. I understand when the families came here, they would stay in a couple of rooms under the school gym. Our organization is actually part of a national network of Family Promise affiliates. There are over 200 affiliates in 43 states, and the original one started in New Jersey in 1986. Each Family Promise organization is an independent nonprofit, so it can be responsive to the needs of its own community. Since Family Promise of Hawaii started operating 17 years ago, more than 6,000 children, parents, and family members have come through our doors. We've had partnerships with 37 congregations around the island that have hosted families overnight, and an additional 35 that have provided support through volunteers, meals, or other donations. Next. Running through our entire organization is a commitment to keeping families together. We serve not only single moms, but single dads, 2-parent households, and multi-generational families, because we believe families shouldn't be separated during the most difficult times in their lives. About 5 years ago, we started growing to serve even more families. In addition to the rotational shelter model, we started working with families before they even become homeless and have to enter an emergency shelter. This preventative approach has become one of our most successful and cost-effective programs. We've also expanded to continue working with families even after they re-enter permanent housing, so to ensure that they can remain stably housed and achieve lasting independence. I first found out about Family Promise when I was living in Delaware. I was born and raised in Kaneohe, and when I was in high school, I remember learning that Hawaii had the highest per capita rate of homelessness in the country, and we still have one of the highest rates today. It always struck me as a particularly stark injustice, especially because Native Hawaiians are disproportionately affected, displaced on their own homeland. I went to college in Boston and continued living in the East Coast, where I co-founded a nonprofit working with immigrants and displaced communities in Latin America. But it wasn't until I moved to Delaware that I finally had the chance to work on addressing homelessness directly. That's where I joined the staff of the Family Promise affiliate based out of Wilmington in Northern Delaware. Like the Family Promise here, the Delaware affiliate also partnered with local congregations and had other programs aimed at preventing homelessness and helping families remain stably housed. That's where I got to see just how special the Family Promise model is. It was a wonderful experience to meet and get to know the families in our programs. The kids would often come up to my office after school, where I would print out coloring pages for them and put their drawings up on my wall. I was there when families secured their new apartments and helped them move in. And I got to know our volunteers and community supporters who so selflessly gave of themselves and their resources to help the families in need. I moved back to Hawaii almost 4 years ago, and I had a job lined up at a different nonprofit, but I still wanted to be involved with Family Promise, so I joined the board of directors of the affiliate here. Then last summer, our previous executive director decided to move back to her home state of Florida. The board organized a national search process that I wasn't part of. They ended up offering me the position, and I started here in September, almost 6 months ago. Over the past few years, our programs have had to shift significantly. We had to stop the rotational shelter model in March 2020 when COVID-19 was first declared a global pandemic to protect the health and safety of both the volunteers and the families. But I think we can be proud of some of the creative solutions that we found to continue providing shelter and other services throughout the most difficult times in the pandemic. One of the organization's founding insights was to mobilize underutilized community resources to provide temporary shelter to families. And during the pandemic, an entirely different set of underutilized resources emerged. We rented out campsites, hotel rooms, and even student dorms to provide shelter. And these were all places where families could have their own rooms for the duration of the program. Although we often couldn't have volunteers interact face-to-face with the families, we continued providing opportunities to cook and provide meals just through a contactless drop-off system. We've also continued the prevention and stabilization programs, along, of course, with our case management and connections to other services. Last year, we served a record number of families, 297 families, or 866 individual children, parents, and family members. And we currently only have the only emergency shelter program on Oahu that serves families of any kind, not just single mothers or those fleeing domestic violence, and provides each family with a separate room. Sadly, the need in the state is significant. 1 in 30 young children in Hawaii experience homelessness, according to the most recent federal estimate. In fact, across the country, the age at which someone is most at risk of going to homeless shelter is under age 1. Infancy is the age at which someone in this country is most likely to need homelessness services. The next highest risk is for children ages 1 through 5, according to the federal data. In recent months, our organization alone has received an average of 20 phone calls for assistance every week. Our homelessness crisis reflects our housing crisis. For every 100 low-income households, there are only about 40 housing units that are available and affordable to them. This forces over half of low-income households to pay more than 50% of their income on housing, which is considered a severe cost burden. The twin forces of high costs and low supply make housing instability such a risk for our families. The depth of this challenge should not be underestimated, and it has long-term consequences. Research has linked housing instability in early childhood with delays in cognitive and socio-emotional development, and worse educational performance and chronic health conditions later in life. The first few years of brain development for children are so crucial, and homelessness can be tremendously disruptive. But despite the magnitude of this challenge, I believe we as a community have everything we need to solve this. It's just a matter of perspective and priorities. This year at Family Promise, we're moving into the next phase of our shelter program's evolution. We've learned a lot from our experience over the past few years. One thing we'll be keeping moving forward is providing families in the shelter program with separate rooms. There's a real value for families in having a door they can lock and a space where they can remain until moving back into permanent housing. Some of these spaces will actually be at congregations that previously hosted families overnight. We're formalizing agreements with them to rent out their rooms long-term. And we're still looking for more space in the community. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. One thing we're bringing back is in-person volunteer opportunities. The direct connection between volunteers and families in our programs was one of the elements that made Family Promise so special. And it provided a lot of value for both groups. When I was on the board of our organization, I got to experience the shelter program as a volunteer. My family and I would bring dinner and share a meal with the families, and I also slept overnight. So I saw firsthand how unique this opportunity was and how it brought people together through a shared sense of humanity and compassion. We're going to try to make it simpler for people to volunteer this year by having all of the evening activities at our office, which we call the Family Resource Center. This is right down the road, by the way, just outside of Chinatown. During the day, this is where families meet with case managers to address their challenges in a holistic way, getting individualized support to overcome whatever barriers led to homelessness. The Family Resource Center also has a dining room, washing machines, and computers that families can use. In the next few months, we're going to start offering a few volunteer slots a week, including dinners, activities with kids, and opportunities to help parents gain employment and financial skills. I'm excited that once again, you'll be able to have a meal together with the families we're serving and really get to know them at a human level. Our goal is to eventually have congregations and other organizations sign up to volunteer for a week at a time, similar to the old model. I hope to share more details with you all soon. In the meantime, we still have numerous ways to get involved, like dropping off meals, as I know you have continued doing, and donating household supplies. Monetary gifts are always welcome and go directly towards serving children and families in our programs. Our long-term plan is to acquire or develop a building that will be the permanent home for the shelter program. It'll take into account everything that we've learned over the past 17 years, offering a trauma-informed, child-friendly campus where families can access temporary shelter and other services. It'll also have space for community meals and activities. We want to take the time to find the right facility, so we're looking at different options in the community as we continue to raise funds. If you have any questions or suggestions about this, please let me know. I'll be here afterward as well. All of your support throughout the years has been so important and is so appreciated. It truly does change lives. Your selflessness and generosity is what has created a brighter future for so many children and families. Moving forward, I know one thing is certain. We'll continue to count on the compassion, generosity, and partnership of congregations like yours to continue bringing hope and hospitality to families during the toughest times in their lives. And one final note, we're inviting all of the Family Promise supporters and volunteers to our annual appreciation event on Thursday, March 30th. It'll be in the evening at Central Union Church. So I'll make sure anyone who's interested gets the link to RSVP. Thank you again for making a difference for children and families, for your selfless giving that provides compassion and hospitality on each step of their journey toward permanent housing. We're so grateful for your ongoing support throughout the years. And thank you again for inviting me here this morning.